1, 2, 3. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 3. 1, 2, 3. Mic test. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
You getting me now? Okay.
1, 2. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No tests. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Test 1, test 2, test 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do an ambient. Do an ambient. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. An ambient, like the speaker's on. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Testing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You need me to keep talking? Yeah? All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Give me a thumbs up from press if you're good. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that everyone? All right. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. You want to check ambient now? Testing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can hear me. 1, 2, 1, 2. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Well, good evening, everybody. Good evening, and thank you so very much for being here. Sorry we're running just a little bit behind. This is the 5th stop we've had today, and I don't have any idea how many interviews the governor's done, but it's been quite a bit. I am Craig Paulson, former Speaker of the Iowa House and the chair for the Governor Christie for President campaign here in Iowa. And it is my distinct honor tonight to get to introduce what I hope to be, and I hope many of you do. I guess there's probably a couple undecideds in here, but introduce the man that's going to be the next President of the United States tonight. I've had an opportunity to get to know him and his wife, Mary Pat, over the course of the last several years, even more so here as we've been going through this campaign cycle. And I just have to tell you, of all the people and all the candidates, federal candidates, presidential candidates I've had the opportunity to meet over the last many years as speaker and leader and so on and so forth here in this state, just like you get to meet them, I have to tell you, this is one of the most honorable men I've ever met in my life. Him and his wife are fantastic people. They have a fantastic set of kids. Got to meet them last year at the State Fair. And I just have to, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to turn the mic over. His yes means yes, his no means no. And if he tells you he's going to do something, you can take it to the bank. And if he tells you he's not going to do something, you can take it to the bank. And I think that is a really delightful and refreshing thing in federal politics right now. So with that, Governor Chris Christie.
Good day today. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming out. I really appreciate it very much. I'm thrilled to be back in Davenport, and I have to tell you, it's our 4th town hall of the day today. And so we started the morning this morning in West Des Moines. We're ending our day in Davenport. We have been to a number of different spots today. We've been to Ottumwa, right? We've been to Burlington. Now we're here. And so we're thrilled to be here with just 72 hours left until you all get to go and caucus. And I'm looking forward to some real people actually voting. What a great sensation that'll be in this race, taking the race out of the hands of the pollsters and the pundits and the talking heads on TV and actually putting it in the hands of real people. That's going to be an exciting moment on Monday night, and we're looking forward to it. So a couple of things off the top. I had fun last night in Des Moines. It was a good night. Let me tell you what I think was the biggest moment for you to think about in last night's debate. It came on the topic of immigration. And if you recall, on the immigration issue last night, Fox News showed 2 sets of videos, right? They showed a video of Senator Rubio talking about immigration starting in 2009 when he was against amnesty and against any legalization for people who come here illegally. Then they showed him in 2013, standing smiling with Chuck Schumer in the United States Senate as the main co-sponsor, the main Republican co-sponsor of a bill that allowed for amnesty, allowed for people who came here illegally to become United States citizens. Then we showed him in 2015 saying he was against amnesty. Then we saw a video of Senator Cruz who said that he was against amnesty. Then we showed him in a video saying he was for Senator Rubio's bill as long as it was for legalization, not for citizenship. Then we saw a video of him saying he's not for citizenship or legalization. Then they each had an opportunity to explain. And we all got to stand around and listen. And then Senator Paul got in and he took a couple of shots at Senator Rubio. And then Governor Bush got in and he took a couple of shots at Senator Rubio. And I was just sitting down there on my end of the stage, kind of whistling and going, let's see, what's going to happen here? And what happened? What happened was I finally had to intervene. We were being inundated with Washington speak. Now, to me, what happened last night was pretty plain. Those 2 guys have changed their minds. Marco's changed his twice. Ted's changed his once, it appears. That's okay. It's okay to change your mind. If you're in public life and you're growing up and you're learning things and you get new information that makes you change your mind, that's all right. Isn't that what we want from people? I want people to have open minds, listen to other arguments, all the rest, and sometimes it changes your mind, sometimes it doesn't. That's okay. What I can't stand is they won't admit it. They were trying to tell me and you last night that what we saw in that video was completely consistent. Are you kidding? I mean, that segment last night should have been like packaged and retitled, "Do you believe me or your lying ears and eyes?" Right? Because that's why I finally said last night that if what they're saying is true, then I need a Washington to English dictionary converter. Because those guys in Washington, man, they speak a different language. The language is pretty plain. They were for it, they were against it, they're back for it, or they were against it, they're for it, now they're against it, whatever. But stop making us feel like we get it. We do get it. I've changed my mind on some issues over time. That's a good thing. I've learned, responsible for things. I've been accountable for things. And if that doesn't change your mind over the course of your entire lifetime, then there's something wrong between the ears. You're not thinking. And we don't need a president who is steeped in Washington talk, because it's Washington talk that is driving us crazy, because it's that Washington talk that's leading to nothing being done. It's that Washington talk that's leading to the government absolutely moving backwards rather than forwards. It's Washington talk that is what is making everyone angry in this country. And there, up on that stage last night, we had three of the biggest purveyors of Washington talk in the world: Rand Paul and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz. And man, you could see last night when it's off the prepared remarks, it gets a little dicey. He had his prepared answer. He said, no, Senator, we saw the video. Respond to what you've said. Man, it was deer in the headlights time. He's like, whoa. It was like the old, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? He wanted to phone a friend. Get a little help. What do I do now? Right? Ted just looked like he was just sad. And I was standing next to Rand Paul. I couldn't make out what was going on there. But I intervened because the American people need to hear straight talk. They need to hear someone they believe. And we need to stop all this Washington stuff. And so we're all angry about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I don't believe back to Washington, D.C., just give them a different job. And so that's why I raised my voice last night during that argument. Not because I wanted to criticize Senator Rubio or Senator Cruz for their position. Whatever their position on immigration is, it is. And you can judge whether you agree with it or you disagree with it, whether you think it's good public policy for America or bad for America. That's for you to decide. But what should disturb you is they won't tell you the truth. What should disturb you is that they're trying to fool you. Senator Rubio standing there saying, no. I was never for amnesty. I mean, come on. You were. Now you've changed. The American people are reasonable, understanding, intelligent people. Tell them your position. They'll decide. And they'll give you a fair listen. Everybody here in Iowa is giving me a fair listen. And I think you'll give them a fair listen too, but not if they're not going to tell you the truth. You should demand better. And that performance last night was pitiful. Pitiful in that section. Really sad. And so you're not going to get that from me tonight. What you're going to get from me tonight is what I've been doing all day today in Iowa. You're going to raise your hand. I'm going to call on you. You're going to ask me a question. I'm going to give you an answer. And you may not like every answer I give. You may not. I hope you like them, but if you don't, that's okay too. But one thing I can guarantee you for sure, you will not walk out of here tonight confused. You will know exactly what I mean. exactly what I mean, and that's exactly the kind of president I'll be too. I'll tell you what I think. I'll tell you how I feel. I'll hit it to you straight. You can take it or leave it. But it's about time we had some of that in the White House. Because the guy was the world. Right? In his own fantasy land. I watched the State of the Union a couple weeks ago. You know, I said it's like story time with Barack Obama. I mean, I didn't recognize the country he was talking about. I don't know about you. And now we got Hillary Clinton. And this is where I'll end up for the evening before I take your questions. We got Hillary Clinton now. And today we find out there's 22 pages of emails that the State Department won't release from her private server because they're top secret and we can't read them. Now, no top secret information on my private server. Then she said, it wasn't marked as top secret. Find out, yep, there was top secret information on the server. A private server, not secured by the American government. And when they asked her right here in Iowa last week, when she had her town hall with Senator Sanders, they asked her, and Iowan stood up and asked her to explain herself. She said that she had that private email server for her own convenience. Okay. So you put national security at risk for your own convenience. You put the lives of intelligence officers at risk for your own convenience. You put the identity of some of the nation's secrets at risk for your own convenience. Ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, that's not only criminal, that is disqualifying to be president of the United States, and we better do something about it. And the thing you can do is put a former federal prosecutor on the stage against her in September, because she needs to be prosecuted. It doesn't look like this Justice Department's going to do it, so put me on the stage, I'll prosecute her, and she will never get within 10 miles of the White House when I'm done with her. So we are serious about Iowa. The way you know we are serious is that I am not here alone. I brought with me the First Lady of the state of New Jersey. My wife is Mary Pat is with us here tonight. She gets a great reaction all around the state wherever she goes. And I want to tell you a quick story about her. When we first started this campaign, we went to New Hampshire early this summer. And we stayed in a hotel in Manchester. And we came morning to start. I stood in the lobby, and she went off to go get herself a cup of coffee. And the manager of the hotel came walking over to me. He recognized me. And he said, "Governor, thanks so much for staying here. We hope we're going to see a lot of you over the next number of months. And we thank you so much for picking our hotel to stay." And I said, "You're very welcome." And he shook my hand. He walked away. Then he came back about 30 seconds later. He goes, "Can I say one other thing to you?" And I said, "Sure." He says, "I think you can tell a lot about a person by the way they act, more than even what they say." I said, "I agree with that." And he said, "Now I've watched you this morning." He said, "And I think it's great that you didn't just get here and go walking into your car, but you're waiting here in the lobby for your young aide to go get a cup of coffee, and then you can walk to the car together." True story. And I said, because you know this is a presidential campaign, and you know the way rumors start. And I said, "I want to make this clear to you. The woman I came down in the elevator with from my hotel room and into the lobby was not my young aide. That's my wife. It's my wife I'm waiting for." Now, Mary Pat loves when I tell this story because, of course, she gets referred to in the story as the young aide, working for the old guy, right? So I tell her that story, and in return, we make a deal. I tell her, if I go to a town hall meeting and you're there and I tell that story, then when it's time to get to work, which it is now, and taking your questions, that when I go to work, and I think when most of you go to work, I take my jacket off. So I say to her, "This is what you need to do. You have to do the one thing that a young aide might do, which is to take my jacket for me. And I'll call you the young aide then." And she has agreed to do that, so we're going to get to work. All right, one rule for Christie, Iowa town hall meetings, only one rule. In New Jersey, we have 4 rules. That will tell you everything you need to know about the difference between Iowa and New Jersey. Only one rule. You raise your hand, I call on you, you ask a question, I give an answer. That's the only rule. Raise your hands up. Whoever's got a question, let's go. We got work to do. We got some questions to answer. Who wants to start? All right, sir, right there. Now, wait a second. I just want to say to you, this is one of the folks who are from Take a Stand, from AARP. This is like an open book test, okay? I called on him first. I don't know what he could possibly be wanting to be asking me, but we're going to see what we got. Go ahead, sir. Someone turn the microphone on for our friend here. How are we doing over there? Give it another try. Let's see.
In 15 years, the Social Security Trust Fund faces exhaustion. So, Social Security needs to be revamped real soon. What plan do you have to preserve Social Security for future generations?
All right. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, and I am shocked that you did. Because I am the only candidate in this race, Republican or Democrat. 15 candidates going to be on the ballot, at least, in Iowa on Monday night. I'm the only candidate with an entitlement reform plan, the only one. And I laid it out in April. And you can go on my website at chrischristie.com and you can see it. It's a 12-point plan that will save over $1 trillion over the next 10 years. It's scored by the Congressional Budget Office, not by me. It's a legitimate, tough plan. And I've been waiting for one candidate, just one, to come out and put forward a different plan. And we haven't seen that yet. But here's my plan. I won't give you all 12 points because God knows I want you all to stay awake for the next hour or so. But I will give you 4 points, 2 that involve Social Security, 2 that involve Medicare. First on Social Security, we need to raise the retirement age. And we need to raise the retirement age for one very obvious reason. We're all living longer. The average life expectancy of a woman in America today is 83 years old. The average life expectancy for a man is 79 years old. I just saw a couple of you ladies smile. I want to remind you that 10 years ago, you were 6 years ahead of us men. 10 years later, it's down to 4. We are gaining on you. And that 4-year vacation that you were expecting at the end of life from us, you may not get it. You may be stuck with us forever. But you know that Social Security was a program that was devised when life expectancy was in the mid-60s. And that was a good deal for the government then because people retired at 62. On average, they took Social Security for 3 years. They passed away. And then their survivor benefit, which is smaller, went to their surviving spouse if there was one, and the government made money. It was a good deal for the government. Not anymore. And what happens now is that we're living 15 to 20 years beyond what the program was designed to sustain. So I say we raise the retirement age 2 years, and we phase it in over 25 years. Now, when I run against Hillary Clinton in the fall, she's going to run an ad in Iowa that says, Chris Christie has a plan on Social Security that will throw grandma off the cliff. When she runs that ad, I want you to remember, it takes grandma 25 years to hit the ground. That's a really high cliff. A really high cliff. 25 years, so it means it goes up 1 month a year every year for 25 years. So for folks who are on Social Security today, it makes no difference. For folks who are close to Social Security, it'll make little difference. Next year, it would be, if we put it in next year, it would be 67 years old and 1 year, 1 month. 67 and 2 months the next year. So you're talking about just a few months for folks who are very close to Social Security. But for my children, our children, mine and Mary Pat's, it will make a big difference. And it should, because their life expectancy will presumably be even longer. We need to put it on a sound actuarial path going forward. Second, we need to means test Social Security. That's another unpopular thing to say, but it's the truth. And here's what I mean by it so you specifically know what I'm talking about. If you make $200,000 a year or more in retirement income, that means you have $4 to $5 million saved at retirement. If you do, first thing I say is God bless you. Good job. You raised a family, lived your life, and got to retirement. You've got $4 or $5 million saved. You did a great job. Next thing I'll say to you is God bless America, because this is the only place in the world that could happen. That's a good thing. But let me ask you a question. If you're making $200,000 in retirement income, and you got $4 or $5 million in the bank, Do you really need a $1,200 a month Social Security check? Is that really going to change your lifestyle significantly? I'd suggest it doesn't. Now, I know the argument in response. The argument in response is, well, what are you talking about, man? I paid for it. That's my money. I paid it in. I want it back. Perfectly reasonable argument, except for one minor complication. The government lied to you and stole from you. And I hate to be the guy to tell you that, but it's the truth. They told you, you give me this money every 2 weeks out of your paycheck, I'm going to put it in a trust fund. And that money's just going to sit there protected. You remember, Al Gore called it the lockbox. Right? Right now you're saying to yourself, I don't remember whether I'm remembering Al Gore saying that or the guy who played Al Gore on Saturday Night Live. But it doesn't matter which one you're remembering for the purpose of this story. It's the lockbox. Here's what's in the lockbox, okay? IOUs. IOUs from the United States government. The money is gone. They spent it. Lyndon Johnson started spending it during the Vietnam War, and presidents and Congresses haven't stopped spending it since. And so, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you already know this anyway. And so we got a problem. We got a checkbook balancing problem. Too much money going out. So what do? When you have a checkbook balancing problem in your house, you got one of two choices. Bring more money in or send less money out. I'm a send less money out guy, and I'll explain why. Hillary Clinton is a take more money in person. She says take the cap off the Social Security tax and tax everybody on everything you make for every dollar you make with the payroll tax. Now, we all know that's a pretty big tax already, right? I remember our son, is now a senior in college. A couple of years ago, he got his first, real job during the summer while he was in college, and he brought his pay stub home and showed it to me, and he goes, what's this FICA thing? I see federal tax, state tax, unemployment. What's FICA? I said, you'll learn, buddy. You'll learn. It's a big number for all of us. What she wants to do is make that number bigger because she says that'll go after the wealthy. She's right, it will. But so will my plan. My plan goes after those who are well off and who don't need this. Except here's the difference and why my plan is better. Let's say here in Davenport, someone opened a new bank in downtown Davenport. You went put your money in that bank. And about a year later, that bank went belly up. And you lost some of your money. And 6 months later, you get a knock on your front door. And he comes, and he sees you, and he says, hi, I'm opening up a new bank down in Davenport, and I'd like to have your deposits. And you look at this guy, and you go, wait a second. Aren't you the guy who ran the new bank a year or so ago that went belly up, and I lost some of my money? And he says, yeah, but I learned. Now, I know Iowa folks are really nice. I've learned that over the last 9 months. Really, you're wonderfully nice people. But I guarantee you, he's not leaving your front porch with any of your money, is he? No, he's not. So if you wouldn't give him the money, why are you giving it to the government? They stole it from you too. Except this time, Hillary Clinton's saying, give me more, and I promise this time we won't steal it. Well, come on now. This Congress just stole it. A Republican Congress conspired with a Democratic president. And in this last budget, they just stole $150 billion from the Social Security Retirement Fund to put it in the Social Security Disability Fund because they don't want to reform the Disability Fund. They just want to put an expensive Band-Aid on it, and that Band-Aid has been bought with $150 billion from the Social Security Retirement Fund. They will steal your money. Take my word for it. If a member of Congress has a decision to make, and he's got 3 doors, door number 1 is raise taxes, door number 2 is cut spending, door number 3 is, here's this pile of money that I can take and no one will notice it's gone till after I'm gone, he's picking door number 3. We've watched it over and over again. So don't trust the solution that takes more money out of everybody's pocket now on the promise that the government will use it the right way. We're common sense folks in this country. We've watched what we've watched. It's not going to happen. And I do the same thing on Medicare. Increase eligibility age 2 years, phase it in over 25. And on Medicare, if you make over $200,000 a year, $4 to $5 million in the bank, instead of having your Medicare subsidized 75%, as we do now, your Medicare would be subsidized 10%. Why? Because you can afford more. And there are plenty of folks in this country who can't. And Social Security and Medicare were meant to make sure that people didn't grow old in poverty. that they could afford rent and heat and food, that they could get medical care for themselves in their older years and not have to go to an emergency room to get it, which is a less efficient, effective, and quite frankly, more expensive way of delivering health care to people. We're going to wind up paying for it one way or the other. Let's do it the better way. That and the 8 other points of the plan, which I urge you to go and look at, and I'm sure the Take a Stand people have done it already, will save over $1 trillion over the next 10 years. That's real money to deal with our national debt and to secure the future of Social Security and Medicare. Tell you one last thing about this, because this was the debate, not last night, but the one a couple weeks before that. They asked Senator Rubio about his plan for entitlement reform. And he gave a 90-second answer on tax reform. So I was standing next to him that night. I was like, wow, did I not hear the question right? Then Ted Cruz jumped in and told about his tax reform plan and why his tax reform plan was better than Senator Rubio's tax reform plan. Then Senator Rubio jumped back in and tried to say why his tax reform plan was better than Senator Cruz's. And I interrupted, and I said, excuse me, can I interrupt this debate on the floor of the United States Senate in order to answer the question that Maria Bartiromo actually asked, which was entitlements? And I gave my answer on entitlement reform. They won't answer you. That means one of two things. We saw it on immigration, which is why I talked about that before, because I knew I'd get an entitlement question. If they don't answer you, that means one of two things. Either they don't have a plan, which is scary, given that 71 cents of every dollar the federal government spends right now is spent on entitlements and debt service. So if you don't have a plan for the 71 cents of every dollar, then you got no business being president of the United States. Or second, they have a plan that you're going to really hate. And all they want to do is get by the election and get your vote, get in office, then they'll impose the plan you hate, and you'll not be able to do a thing about it. Don't do it. Make us answer you. I mean, we tried this in the second debate. They asked me and Donald Trump. And I gave my answer, and they went to Donald Trump, and he said, we don't need to make any changes in Social Security because when I'm president, everyone is going to get so rich, so incredibly wealthy, that we're never going to have to worry about Social Security again. What do you say to that exactly? Like, I'm not opposed to everybody getting amazingly rich and amazingly wealthy, incredibly wealthy. Not as wealthy as me, but incredibly wealthy. Right? I'm not opposed to that. But let me ask you a question. We needed one follow-up question there, didn't we? How will someone, because I know he doesn't take questions, so it's hard. He doesn't come here and do this. He flies in on the airplane. He gives like an hour-long rambling speech where he insults everybody within spitting distance of him. And he signs a bunch of hats and throws them into the crowd, and then he leaves. When you do that, you don't have to answer how, but somebody better ask him how. So I then retorted back to him, and I said, well, that's great, Donald, but how about this? Do you need to take Social Security? Do you agree with that part of my plan, that you shouldn't have Social Security? And he goes, yeah, no, I won't take Social Security. I said, well, that's a good start. We started with you, Donald. We'll work our way down the rest of the folks. Don't be fooled on this one. It is one of the single most important issues. And Rubio and Cruz's refusal to answer and Donald's silly response should scare you. Because you don't know what they're going to do. But one thing you know for sure is his statistics are right. And the next president's going to have to deal with this. I'm telling you how I'm going to. They won't. I'm the better bet. Thanks for the question. Next question. Yes, sir, right there. We're going to bring you what we hope will be a working microphone. Here you go. Right behind you. Oh, come on now. Fellas, please.
Oh.
Here you go.
Now, if you were Trump,
And you guys will get it together back there at some point. Or I'm going to bring Donald in here and he's going to go, you're fired.
Can you hear me now? Okay, last night they asked you a question, I forget who asked it, but a question about what you would cut out of government, and you come up with a good answer. But It's going to take a lot more than that to balance a budget, which I hope you're in favor of. You got any more ideas?
Remember that the question last night was, can you tell me one thing other than your entitlement reform plan? Now, let's start with the fact that that's $1 trillion. That's more than anybody else up there has proposed to cut. But old Brett wanted to give me a hard time. So he's like, besides the $1 trillion you're going to cut, what else? You can give me one other thing. So I listened to the question. He didn't say, tell me everything, one thing. And in fact, remember, I even said to him, yeah, you just want one? And I didn't do that because I was hard of hearing. And I read one story today that said Christie nervously asked him if it was just one. Nervous? Did I look nervous? Do I look nervous now? I'm from New Jersey, man. I don't get nervous. When you're from New Jersey, you make other people nervous. You don't get nervous, all right? So I gave the answer about Planned Parenthood last night because I think it's morally offensive and the wrong thing for our country to be doing, to be funding Planned Parenthood. But let me tell you what I would do. I would do the same thing that I did in New Jersey. When I came in New Jersey, I had an $11 billion deficit on a $29 billion budget. And that was after they had raised taxes and fees 115 times in the 8 years before I became governor. So, but spending had gone up 56% in 8 years. So here's what I did. For 6 weeks, we met 3 times a day, 3 times a week for 6 weeks, and went over the budget line by line. And basically what they did was they would go through the line on the budget. They would say to me, here's what it is, Governor. Here's how much it spends. Yes or no. I cut 800 items from the budget. 800. Now, it stunk because every one of those 800 items had a constituency. And believe me, I heard from them. Emails, letters, phone calls, protests on the front steps of the State House, the whole thing. But when you have a problem the size that we have, you got to put the blinders on. Just say, you know what? I know there's lots of good programs out there that I'm going to cut, but I cannot worry about it. I have to do my job. For our children and our grandchildren, I have to do it. So I'm going to sit here and go through chapter and verse with you, but I will tell you I will bring the same level of commitment to the federal budget, to sit down and go through it line by line and make decisions. And you know what? Today in New Jersey, we spend $2.3 billion less in discretionary spending than we spent in 2008, 8 years ago. Not like a $2.3 billion lesser increase like they do it in Washington. Oh, I slowed the rate of increase. That's a cut. No. This is an actual lower number than 2008. So I've done it. I know how to do it. It's painful. It's difficult, but it needs to be done because we have $19 trillion in debt. And we are mortgaging, forget our children's future is already mortgaged. It's now our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren's future that we're mortgaging. So that's the process I would take. I would sit down with the experts, go line by line, and they would look at me at the head of the table, and I would say, yes or no, and send it to Congress that way and hold their feet to the fire, the same way I've held my legislature's feet to the fire. And by the way, with the line item veto in New Jersey, I've line item vetoed between $4 and $5 billion in spending in the last 6 years. I'm not going to let them overspend our budget. And I will not let it happen at the federal level either. We need some discipline back, and I think I'm just the guy to discipline those folks, and that's the way I'll approach it. Thank you, sir.
Does it work?
Yeah, you go.
All right, let's give it up for the sound guys.
Man, oh man, oh man. Round of applause for the sound guys, everybody.
Governor, my name's Jeff Ashcraft. I'm from a little town north of Davenport called Eldridge. Welcome back to Davenport. We're a little bit, you're an East Coast guy. We're an East Coast Iowa community. We think a little different from Des Moines and the western part of the state. So welcome back. In fact, we have our own pizza. You should try it while you're here.
I'm hearing about it. I'm going to have some of that tonight from what I know.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Harris Pizza just down the street. Anyway, I could ask you a million questions, but I've got a boy, 23 years old. He's going to be deployed to Iraq this May. He's with a unit out of just out of Burlington. I want to know what your take is on what's going on in the Middle East, because frankly, I can't tell, and I'd really like to hear something specific. I can't tell what the hell our position is in the Middle East and what our position might be in the Middle East from most of the candidates who I've heard speak.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank, and please send on to your son, our thank you from me and Mary Pat and our family for his service. It's an extraordinary thing. And as a dad, I want to thank you for yours, okay, because it is his service, but for a mother and father, that's service. That's service, because every night you'll be thinking about him, every night. And so we should not only, I'd suggest respectfully, include their son in our prayers, but we should include those two parents in our prayers, because they're making an extraordinary sacrifice for our country, and we appreciate it very much. Listen, you're right not to know what the heck the policy is in the Middle East, because I don't see we have one. If we have one, this is it. We're cozying up to the Iranians, and we're getting everybody else angry, and the rest of the Middle East is going to hell in a handbasket, right? Iraq is exploding and is on fire. Syria is exploded and is on fire. Libya has exploded and is on fire. Egypt is under martial law. Yemen is in the middle of a civil war. And Jordan now has as its fourth largest city a refugee camp. Israel feels more insecure today than it ever has because American policy has moved away from Israel and closer to Iran. That's my evaluation of where we are right now. We have a president who told us that if Assad uses chemical weapons on his people, that we will attack him. He used chemical weapons, killed 250,000 of his people, and we did nothing. No, correction, we did something. We invited Putin in to fix it. Just who you want. Our friendly neighbor from Russia. Come on in and be a peacemaker, Vladimir Putin. And now who's Putin brought in to Syria with him? The Iranians. And by the way, you know who else? Welcome back. It feels like I'm back in the 60s. The Cubans. The Cubans are back too. It's fabulous. It's quite a foreign policy designed by Hillary Clinton and executed by Barack Obama. So what do we need to do? I think we need to get back to basics. So first, we need to identify who our real friends are. We need to go to our European allies and say to them, listen, between all the turmoil there and ISIS and al-Nusra and Hezbollah and Hamas and al-Qaeda, we need you to join the fight against radical Islamic terrorism. And we need to go convince our European allies, our NATO allies, everyone from Great Britain to Turkey and everybody in between, that this is their fight too. And I'll tell you who will join right in early. It'll be the French, because they've seen what's happened. Charlie Hebdo and the Paris attacks, there are a lot of dead Parisians, and they understand they need to join this fight. Then we need to go to our, in my opinion, our Sunni Arab allies, the Saudis, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Emiratis, the Qataris. And we need to say to them, we cannot fight this without you. Because if we do what ISIS and the rest of the terrorist groups will say, it's the great Satan coming to get in a fight with Islam. If we have standing next to us Muslim partners who believe that these folks are also a threat to civilized society, they can't make that argument. So the first thing we need to do is identify our friends and then bring them into a grand alliance. That's going to take a lot of work, because this president has so angered those people. Imagine if you're the Saudis or the Egyptians right now, and they see the United States nuzzling up to the Iranians, who are their mortal enemies. Now let's remember something. Most of you in this audience, myself included, are old enough to remember 1979. I remember them taking our hostages. I remember them parading them around in blindfolds. I remember them burning our flag. I remember them chanting death to America. And by the way, they still do it. And this is the country this president has given tens of billions of dollars in sanctions relief to, and is putting on a path towards a nuclear weapon. We need to stop nuzzling up to the Iranians. You see what they've done in the last couple of weeks, right? Ballistic missile testing in violation of treaties, getting our sailors and taking pictures of them on their knees with their hands over their heads. And now, just in the last 24 hours, a drone flying over our naval vessels and taking pictures of our naval vessels. And what's this weak, feckless president do? Nothing. Nothing. He just prays that the Iranians won't attack anybody so he can keep his blessed agreement in place, which he thinks is going to put him in the history books. And let me tell you something, I agree with him. It will put him in the history books as the worst foreign policy president we've had since Jimmy Carter. It will put him in the history books. Second, we need to send a very clear message to those enemies. Let's start with the Iranians. I say three things in my first week in office. Number one, the Iranians will never, ever get a nuclear weapon on my watch. And if I have to use military action to prevent it, I will. We cannot have a despotic regime that wants to impose their religious beliefs upon the entire world, have the most dangerous weapons the world has ever known. It is unacceptable, and if I have to take military action to stop it, we will, because if we don't, they will use those weapons to blackmail us and others. We got to stop it before it starts. Second, I'd say to the Iranians, you are not going to have another meeting, let alone another agreement with the United States, until you recognize Israel's right to exist. You know, the fact is, they don't have to be allies with Israel, but they need to recognize their right to exist. They cannot be saying that Israel is going to be wiped off the map in 25 years. Israel is our best ally in the Middle East, and if we don't stand with our best ally, we don't belong having friends. Third, I would also say loudly and clearly that the United States is for regime change in Iran. That doesn't mean I want to send soldiers over there to change the regime. I don't. But we need to stand up for the moral principle that that is an illegitimate regime. Beside all the other things I've told you, they're the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. And they stone women based upon allegations from their husbands. And they hang homosexuals from cranes in the center of their cities purely because of their sexual orientation. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how you define civilized regime, but I know how I do, and that's not a civilized regime. And we should say very clearly to the Iranian people, we don't believe your government is legitimate, and we don't think you do either. Now, with the Russians, President Putin would have a very direct conversation with me and I with him. And I would tell him, I'm not looking for war with Russia. I don't want war with Russia. There's no reason we can't get along. But you need to understand the limits of my patience. Stop playing around in Eastern Europe. You've taken Crimea. You're in Ukraine. Enough. The next steps are NATO allies. Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. He needs to understand, he makes a move towards those, we will invoke Article 5, and an attack on one is an attack on all. He does not want that. In a debate two times ago, they asked me about the no-fly zone I want to put in Syria and a safe zone so that Syrians don't leave their own country and run to Europe and to the Middle East, but stay in their own country in a place where they can be safe and secure, protected by NATO troops, Sunni Arab troops, and by the American Air Force. Someone asked me if a Russian plane flew into the no-fly zone, what would I do? This was in one of the debates. I said, well, I would warn President Putin that it's a no-fly zone, so don't fly in there. They said, well, what if he did anyway? And I said, after I warned him? And they said, yeah. I said, I'd shoot him down. And you remember, Senator Paul went wild, right? Senator Paul was standing next to me. He said, this is a guy who's going to start War 3, right? When we allow people, when words don't mean anything anymore. No fly zone doesn't mean maybe fly zone. It doesn't mean sometimes fly zone. It doesn't mean fly zone for you but not for anybody else fly zone. It means no fly zone. I'm from New Jersey. Words are simple. That's all we can handle. We have simple words. We use them all the time. No fly zone means no fly zone. Putin needs to understand the limits of our patience. And let's remember something. We're letting this guy, for you boxing fans in the room, punch above weight. His economy is crumbling. Oil is in the 20s a barrel. And that is the main driver of his economy. His military is crumbling. All we need to do is push this guy back into his cage. He'll go back. He'll go back. But he has to know what the limits of our patience are. Lastly, with the Chinese. The Chinese are the most important relationship we're going to have in the 21st century. And we want to have a good relationship with the Chinese. But they also need to know the limits of our patience. Like, stop building these islands in the South China Sea and trying to turn them into military bases to intimidate Japan and Korea and others. Don't do that. Stop hacking our computer systems. Stop stealing things in cyber warfare from us. Because I said this in one of the debates too. If they conducted that cyber attack against me when I was president on the Office of Personnel Management, where they stole 4 million records, including mine, the Chinese now have my social security number and my fingerprints because they had that from when I was U.S. attorney. I'm not comfortable with the Chinese having my fingerprints. What I would have done if I was president was I would have gone to our cyber warriors and I would have said, you know, China's a much more closed society than ours is. They hide lots of things from their people. Let's go into their computer systems and find the most embarrassing things that they're hiding from their people. Let's steal them and put them on the front page of the New York Times. Guess what would happen? I'd get a call from the president of China, I guarantee you. And then I'd say to him, okay, sir, what kind of relationship you want to have? You want to have a friendly relationship where we both work together, we grow our economies, we provide for safety and security around the world? Happy to do it. You want to keep messing around with me? Then I'm going to mess around with you. People need to understand both the fact that America is a friendly nation that wants to put its hand out and extend its hand of friendship and cooperation with everybody. But if you clench your fist, we'll clench ours. And ours is much bigger. And so that's the way I would deal with foreign policy, both in the Middle East and a little bit beyond, because I thought it was important to mention China. And I think that kind of policy will lead to greater peace and stability in the world. What we're seeing right now is a post-American world, a world where America doesn't lead. You're going to be absolutely experiencing this phrase, I think, over the next number of months. American leadership is both a burden and an opportunity, but it's not a choice. It's not a choice. Because when America chooses to pull back from the world, that vacuum is filled by bad people with bad intentions. It's a burden. There's no question it's a burden. It's a burden that your family will feel. But it's also a great opportunity for the world to have people who are good, decent people who are not looking to conquer anybody, try to provide stability and security in the world as well. So God bless you and your family. Thanks for raising the question.
I have a question about Guantanamo.
Sure, and they're going to give you a microphone.
Okay.
Everybody can hear you.
Okay, Obama is definitely trying to close Guantanamo, and he's letting all these terrorists go, and he's, you know, they're going to other countries, and he's not telling them, you know, how terrible these terrorists are, and they're going to come back, and they're going to try to kill us. But further on that question, if he does get rid of them all, because it sounds like that's what he's going to do, that's his legacy. You know, he wants that. He said he was going to do it. He's going to try and do that before he ends office. Could he, in fact, on his own, give Guantanamo back to Cuba?
You know, it's very interesting. I believe the answer to that is no. But this guy has overstepped his legal bounds over and over again, and it takes a while for the courts to slap him back. Excuse me. Not because the courts are reluctant to. They've slapped him back a number of times, but it just takes a while. I don't think he'll give Guantanamo back, but I think he's going to try to empty it out. That's what he's in the process of doing. And by the way, his own director of national intelligence has said that 30% of the people he's released have gone back into the war on terror against us. This is completely reckless. Completely reckless. And it is disrespectful to all the men and women who captured these animals in the first place and brought them there. These are not prisoners in a law enforcement situation. These are prisoners of war. This is a war against our country. Radical Islamic jihadism is at war with our country. So as president, any of them that remain would stay there. Any new ones we capture would go there because they're prisoners of war. And we will keep them until the war is over. And that war will end at a time of our choosing and our method. And that may take a while, but that's what we have to do. So I don't believe he can give Guantanamo back, but I will tell you this, I wouldn't put anything by this guy in the last year. Nothing. He is, I said this you know, at the debate two times ago, he is a petulant child. And the reason I call him a petulant child is because he knows that what he's doing is not approved by the American people. It's like when you're a child, you tell them not to do something, they go ahead and they do it anyway. That's what he's doing. because the American people have passed on his policies. In 2010, they took away the House from the Democrats. In 2014, we took away the Senate from the Democrats. In 2009, when he was elected, they had 29 governorships in this country. Today, they have 18. 29 to 18. In every way the voters could express their rejection of his agenda, they have rejected it. Yet he continues. That's a petulant child. And so the courts are going to need to discipline this petulant child for the next 350 days or so. But when I become President of the United States, rest assured, Guantanamo will remain open. The people who are there will be kept there. And the new people that we capture in this war will be sent there. Because the number one job of the President of the United States is to protect the safety and security of the American people. And I never will forget that. And it's what I've been doing for a good part of my life as a prosecutor, and what I'll continue to do as President of the United States. Thank you for raising Guantanamo. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
And my concern is jobs that in our area, not just our area, but all over the U.S. We've lost a lot of jobs to China, Japan, manufacturing jobs. What are we going to do, or what can we do to bring some of those jobs back? Because I know NAFTA was a big part of that in the Free Trade Act. So what can we do, or what will they do in Congress to help get some of that back so we can grow our economies again?
Well, I don't know what the heck they'll do in Congress, because I can't understand that place sometimes. Yeah. You know, Congress has a 13% job approval rating right now. And the only shock for me is, who are the 13%? Like, who are the people who are watching this and going, yeah, I like that. Let's get some more of that. This looks good to me. Here's what I think on the manufacturing front. We lost those jobs not only because of some trade agreements, but we lost those jobs because we became non-competitive. We became non-competitive on two fronts, right? Wages and energy costs. Those are the two major things that drive costs for a manufacturer. How much they pay in wages, how much they pay in energy costs. Now, we can't do anything about wages to compete with China, nor should we want to. We do not want American families making the wages that Chinese families are making, okay? So, but we can do something on energy. Because now, with the discoveries we have underneath the ground in the United States of new oil reserves and natural gas reserves, we can aggressively go and pursue that, and we can make energy less expensive here in the United States than any place else in the world. And every nickel that we do not send to the Middle East for oil is a nickel they won't have to sponsor terrorism against us. So it's not only smart from an employment perspective, it's smart from a national security perspective. We need America to be the supplier of its own energy, and now for the first time in my lifetime, we actually can do it. But it's going to mean taking these environmentalist nuts and putting them in a box. Okay, we need to explore for oil and natural gas. Now, I have no problem with alternative energies. I see a lot of wind energy here in Iowa. Great. That works for Iowa, fabulous. I'm in favor of the RFS. Alternative energy, great, wonderful. In New Jersey, by the way, we're the third largest producer of solar energy in the country, only behind Arizona and California. Great, I'm all for that, but it doesn't replace oil and natural gas. If we do that, and if we expand it, and we include Canada and Mexico, who also have significant oil and natural gas reserves, are our neighbors and our friends, and not kick them in the teeth anymore, like declining to build Keystone, but work with our neighbors and our friends, North America, not the Middle East, will become the energy continent. And then we can compete with the Chinese for those jobs, because what we can say to manufacturers is, you can come here and your energy costs will be significantly lower than what you're paying over in China that doesn't have nearly the kind of reserves of energy that we have. They have to import a good part of their energy. So that's, I think, the way we need to compete on the manufacturing front. Lower the energy costs so that manufacturers look at the overall cost of doing business and say, you know what, I'm going to get better educated, better trained American workers. I still have to pay them more, but man, I'm paying so much less in energy that it's worth the while to come back home. And I think that's the way we bring some of that. We'll never bring all those jobs back home, but we can bring a good percentage of them back with an aggressive national energy policy. And that's what you'll see I advocate for on my website. And it's what I've advocated for in these debates. And I think it's a good way to go at not only manufacturing, but the national security issues that lady raised as well. Thank you.
Hi, I'm a physician assistant student here at St. Ambrose, and I wasn't planning on asking you a question, but today the American Association of Physician Assistants sent out in their daily email an article about you, thanking New Jersey and you for expanding PA's roles. And so, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And also, in regards to healthcare, I know you want to repeal Obamacare. So what you want to replace it with, what would that look like for both patients and providers?
Sure. First off, on the physician's assistance bill that I signed, it's because I want to make healthcare more affordable for everybody, right? And we need to use all the talents of all the people that we have in the healthcare system and make sure that people are able to access and utilize their skills and their abilities that they get. And so that's the rationale for me behind the physician's assistance bill, and I hope that it starts a movement around the rest of the country that people will do the same. And maybe your association can help push that a little bit, and it sounds like they are, and that's a good thing. On Obamacare, what I would tell you is it is an abomination because we cannot have a national solution to health care. And the reason why is because we're 50 states. Yes, we are one nation, but we are 50 states. The founders set it up that way. And the reason is because there's unique characteristics to every one of our states. So let's take care provision in New Jersey. Is less about price than it is about distance. Where can you find a physician that can handle your particular problem? Where can you find a hospital or a healthcare provider that can deal with your family's particular situation? Sometimes it's just enormous distance to cover. That's a much different problem than New Jersey. New Jersey, we're the most densely populated state in America. We have 8.9 million people stuffed into that little space. It's like a bulging sausage, New Jersey. It'll be even funnier later. And so our access problem is not distance. We trip over a hospital every 4 miles in New Jersey, right? That's not our problem. Our problem is purely cost-driven. So why would a system devised in Washington that puts the same rules on Iowa and New Jersey fix our problems? Here's what I would do. I would require each state within 1 year of the repeal of Obamacare to come up with their own health plan. The Iowa health plan, the New Jersey health plan, the Wyoming health plan, the Florida health plan, devised by the governor and the state legislature, that you and your organization would have input into. You have folks, I'm sure, in Des Moines, right, that lobby for your causes and your interests, so do all the other folks. And you know what? You get to meet your state representatives, your state senators. You vote for them. You see them in the dry cleaners, in the deli in town, on the football field on a Friday night, or at the basketball court on a Saturday night. You see them, you can have input into them. They can devise a plan that's great for Iowa. I trust Governor Branstad to do that, and I think most of Iowa trusts him to do it too. And the people in New Jersey would trust me to do it for New Jersey. So let's do it that way. That way, the particular problems that confront Iowa, whether it's the number of healthcare providers that you have, whether it's the distance, whether it's the cost, whether it's particular questions on insurance, Iowans should decide, do you want to have your health insurance be portable? So if you get health insurance that you like from an employer, then you leave that job. Shouldn't you have the option to hold on to that insurance if you're willing to pay for it and your new employer is willing to contribute to it? Why not? But Iowans should decide that. Iowans should decide whether or not folks can stay on their parents' health plan until they're 25 or 26 years old. Iowans should decide, can you buy health care plans across state lines or not? Why should Washington decide that stuff? Let Iowa decide. Let New Jersey decide. Let Florida decide for themselves. And by the way, there's one philosophical reason to do this. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution, which says if these powers are not specifically delineated in this document, they revert to the states. Well, I've read the Constitution from front to back. Healthcare is not mentioned in there. Okay, it's not a federal issue, it is a state issue. Let's let the states do it. They'll do it better. You'll have more input. And here's the other thing I love about democracy. Democracy is not the best system of government in the world because it doesn't make mistakes. Democracy is the best system in the world because it gives us the best chance to fix the mistakes when they're made. Let's fix this mistake, and let's put ourselves back on the right path. And with help from folks like you and other people in the healthcare industry, the insurance industry, and regular citizens in the state of Iowa, you're going to be able to come up with an Iowa health plan that you're all going to at least like a heck of a lot better than you like Obamacare, and that's what I would do as president.
First of all, thank you for coming to St. Ambrose.
You're welcome.
Last night, Rand Paul and Marco Rubio clashed on the subject of NSA wiretapping phones of American citizens. I was just wondering, what is your stance on the issue, and as a former lawyer, is it constitutional?
Oh, yeah, it is. And I'll tell you this, they weren't wiretapping your phones. It's not what they were doing. I mean, Senator Paul constantly mischaracterizes what was going on. Here's what was going on. They are collecting what's called metadata. Metadata is all the phone number exchanges that are going on back and forth. There are no names attached to that phone numbers and no content. What they're looking for through the computer programs is this. I'll pick on these two guys. Let's say his phone number comes up, matched up to his phone number, and he is a known foreign terrorist. Now, we got his phone having contact with his phone. What happens? Then I have to go to court. I have to go to court to an independent federal judge, and I have to make the case to find out whose phone number that is inside the United States. I cannot find it out without a search warrant from the court under the Fourth Amendment. So then I get the search warrant. I find out it's his phone. Okay? I then say to them, I need to see his records. They give us the records that go along with it, including his name, and I see he's not just talked to this guy once. It wasn't like a butt dial, okay? He's talking to this guy a lot. All right, now I go back to court, and I say, listen, over the course of 6 months, there have been 75 phone calls between these two guys, him inside the United States, him outside the United States. He's a known terrorist. Here's all the evidence we have to prove that he's a known terrorist. Now I'd like to listen to his conversations and read his emails. I got to go back to the court and prove that. Then and only then, if I have probable cause under the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment, do I get the opportunity to listen to his calls and read his emails. But I can't listen to all his calls or read all his emails. I could just read the calls or listen to the calls with him and read the emails with him. It's called minimization. So we've got a guy listening to his phone calls on a real-time basis. The minute that person can determine that it's not with him or about terrorism, he has to turn it off. No more listening, no more recording. About emails, we can go in, the minute we get enough of a read to determine whether that email is about him or about terrorist activity. If it is, we get to take it. If it isn't, we got to leave it and not read it. Now, from listening to Senator Paul last night, is that what it sounds like was going on? No. What sounds like was going on is that the NSA was listening to every one of your phone calls with grandma and every one of your emails with your kid. He says ridiculous things like, and he said this last night, I want more information from terrorists and less information from innocent Americans. Well, damn man, so do I. But here's the thing. How do you know? How do you know? They don't wear a sandwich board that says, I'm a known terrorist and I'm trying to commit jihad on the United States. They don't do that. I prosecuted this stuff for 7 years. They're doing everything they can to hide from us. So it's a ridiculous statement with no basis in fact. And you know what? I can't blame Senator Paul. He's an ophthalmologist. What would he know? I mean, seriously. That'd be like him asking me about eye surgery. I was a prosecutor. I did this for 7 years. I was in charge of the 5th largest office of the U.S. attorneys in the country. I did this. Don't send an eye surgeon to investigate terrorism. Send a prosecutor to investigate terrorism who has been trained as a lawyer, who understands what the Constitution means and understands that all the stuff he was saying last night is ridiculous. And that at every step along the way, there is a judge who can make these decisions. And when they have taken that ability away from the NSA, they have made this nation weaker and more vulnerable. And this is not a moment where we need to be weaker and more vulnerable. We need to give tools to our intelligence officers to allow them to connect the dots and protect us. Now listen, if an intelligence officer or a law enforcement officer acts outside the law, then prosecute them. Don't throw away the tools. prosecute them. Just like you'd prosecute anybody else who breaks the law. They're not immune to the law. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can protect your constitutional rights and keep you safe. Just need professionals who have done it before and know how to do it. You need a president who will not be fooled by that kind of charlatan argument. You need a president who understands what it means to fight terror because he's done it. And I'm the only one in this race who's done it. Do not turn this country over at such a sensitive, dangerous time to somebody who's never done this before and is going to be reading the instruction manual on how to do this, or depending upon everybody else to tell him. Believe me, when the FBI and the NSA and the CIA come into my office, they're not going to be able to throw the high hard one by me. This is not my first rodeo. That's what you want sitting in the Oval Office, I think, to keep America safe and protect your civil liberties, and that's exactly what we'll do. All right. All the way in the back. No, I'm good. Thanks.
I'm Dave. Donald Trump has done something, and everyone's given him a free pass. I don't understand it. How does he get away with saying there was thousands of people the day of 9/11 Muslims celebrating in New Jersey? The next day he said it resembled a pep rally.
He didn't get away with it with me.
Well, why is this not a big deal?
I was there the next day saying, I was there on 9/11. That's my state. I told him that wasn't true. Listen, here's what you're dealing with, okay? Here's what you're dealing with. If I took this sign, I promise I'll give it back. If I took this sign and I held it up and I said to Donald, what color is this? And Donald said, orange. And I said, Donald, for God's sake, look at this thing. It's blue. And he said, you're a liar. You're a liar. It's orange. I know it's orange. Everyone knows it's orange. It's orange because I say it's orange. That's why it's orange. How do you argue with that?
Well, I'm going to
the state attorney general of New Jersey at the time said it was investigated and it was not true.
Well,
he said that publicly.
My question is, my understanding is there was literally no one that was caught doing that in New Jersey by any news agency, right?
Listen, there was no crowd of people, let alone thousands of people. I can't speak for every individual. Was there somebody in an apartment building in Jersey City pumping their fist? Maybe. But that's not what he's talking about.
Well,
he's talking about people on rooftops. Remember what he said? Thousands of people on rooftops who were celebrating when the buildings came down. He made a very specific statement. Okay? It's wrong. He knows it's wrong. Now, all I can do is say it's wrong. But let me tell you something. He's gotten 14 times more coverage in this race than I have. Okay? These guys who run these cameras, these media organizations, are obsessed with Donald Trump. And so you're the ones who are going to have to bring order to this business, okay? I'm out here fighting, man. I'm working every day. I'm doing the best I can. You got to bring order to this business on Monday.
Governor Christie, can I say something here?
Sure, why not?
I'm going to be at the same place right here, and I'm going to stand for you. And my question to the Trump supporters, do you possibly believe that's true? You know how mad I am at Trump? I'll summarize it. 2 words, 1 finger, okay? That's what I feel about Don Trump.
You from New Jersey?
No.
I had one guy one time. I was traveling in Arkansas, campaigning for Governor Asa Hutchinson, or now Governor Asa Hutchinson. He was running for governor. And I had some guy come up to me at a barbecue place. And he said to me, sir, I don't know much about New Jersey, but is it true that, you know, what you just said, is that the New Jersey state bird? And I said, no, sir. You just heard that, but it's definitely not true. Listen, this is serious business. And I usually say this at the end, but I'll say it now because your question really calls for it. I've been as entertained in this campaign as anybody. Okay? It's been entertaining. There have been a lot of laughs to be had here and a lot of entertainment. I'm sure you've sat in front of your TV sets many a night and had a good howl and enjoyed a lot of this. And I don't begrudge you 1 minute of that, okay? We all got tough lives at times, and getting entertained, especially getting entertained by politics, is, you know, a rare thing, and why not? Have a couple of laughs. We've all enjoyed the show. It's quite a show. We've had senators and former senators, governors and former governors, business people, and a character. Okay, now, that's fine. Showtime is great. I love to go to the movies. I love to go to plays. I love to go to a comedy club. I like to laugh and have a good time. But man, it's 72 hours away. Showtime is over. Showtime is over. It's game time. And for those of you who want to win the game, we better put real players on the field. Real players, not entertainers. We're not picking the entertainer-in-chief, everybody. We're picking the commander-in-chief. These people just stood up and said they are sending their son to Iraq. We're sending their son to Iraq. Who do you want to be his commander? Who will these parents, if you are wondering about this, about where to go and who to vote for, go see those two folks before you leave. And talk to them about what kind of person they want to hold in his hand the future of their child. This is not a game. Okay? This is not a fake boardroom where you look across and say you're fired. This is not a game. This is serious business. And it's time to get serious. And that kind of talk is just one example of it. Just one example. And you have dozens of them already. Now, you'll have friends, I'm sure, who will caucus on Monday night who will tell you that none of that matters to them. None of it matters. Well, it should, because it's going to matter to them. It's going to matter to them who's sitting behind that desk. And it should matter to every one of us. So I can't tell you why he says the things he says. I don't know. I've known him for 13 years. I consider him a friend. I really do. He and Melania have been good friends to me and Mary Pat over the years. I don't get it. And I don't know why he says something like that, because it's just simply not true. But what we know about Donald is once he says it, he ain't backing down. It doesn't matter how much evidence you put in front of him. It doesn't matter what you say to him. He's going to stick to where he got stuck. Some people like that. That goes back to our beginning conversation. You know, some people need to change their minds over time when evidence is put before you to say that you're wrong. It's not a failing, it's a virtue. It's a virtue. Stubbornness is not a virtue. It's a failing. So you raise a really good issue. And that's why I'm out here fighting, man. If I didn't care, I'd be home. I wouldn't be doing my 4th town hall meeting of the day in Iowa, my 6th event, my 4th meeting. I wouldn't be doing it. I want to be president of the United States because I want to keep you safe and secure, and I want you to have the kind of country that you deserve. But only if you have serious leadership. You don't have serious leadership, we're going to have showtime. Let me tell you, everybody, that's what you're going to get. So let's not be depressed about it. Let's not be guilt-ridden about it. Let's just do something about it. You all got the chance to do something about it on Monday night. You got the chance. Let's see what Iowa does. I'm going to be a fascinated observer, I'll tell you that. All right. The gentleman right back there. He's coming up behind you with the microphone.
It's nice to meet you, Governor. Would you enforce the federal ban on marijuana, and would you seek to make any changes to the drug laws?
I would absolutely, unequivocally enforce the federal ban on marijuana. It's bad, and I'd enforce it. The law matters, everybody. The law matters, and it should matter to you. You don't like sanctuary cities? Neither do I. But the president's allowing it to happen because that's a law he doesn't agree with, so he won't enforce it. You like marijuana? President apparently does too, and he doesn't want to enforce the laws in Washington State or Colorado. There's a federal law against it, but he don't like that law, so he's not going to enforce it. This is the problem. It's lawlessness. When I take the oath of office as governor, one of the parts of that oath is I swear to uphold the laws of the state of New Jersey. Not the laws I like, not the laws I agree with, all the laws, all of them. I don't like lots of them. My job, if I don't like them, is to try to change them. If I can convince the legislature to change them, and I sign them, it gets changed. I can't convince them, I got to enforce the law. So you bet I would. And on drugs, I would do some things very, very different than we're doing in this country right now. Drug addiction is a disease. It is a disease. It is not a moral failing, it is a disease. Now, is the initial decision to take drugs a moral failing? Yes, it is. It's a bad decision, a bad judgment. We got over 300 people in this room tonight. How many people in this room has never made a bad decision that they wouldn't want to take back? I'm not raising my hand, I can guarantee you that. I'd like to go a week without making a bad one that I wouldn't want to take back. If that bad decision were drugs, and not something else, and you had the genetic makeup that the first time you take it, you get addicted, then what? See, we're looking at this all wrong. Now, for people who perform violence in the trade of drugs or who make money as dealers by putting this poison in our neighborhoods, there will always be a jail cell for those people in my world. You commit violent acts, you're a sociopath, you belong in jail. You deal drugs in our neighborhoods and make money from it, that's blood money, and you belong in jail. But what about for the nonviolent, non-dealing offender who commits petty nonviolent crimes to support their habit? And you know why they do it? Because they're addicted. Because they cannot help themselves. Now, my mother was an addict. She was addicted to nicotine. She started smoking when she was 16 years old. Because in 1948, when she was 16, it was cool. Go back and look at the movies in the 40s. Everybody smoked. And nobody knew it was bad for them. They just smoked because it was the cool thing to do. And my mom got addicted. And man, I watched her growing up. She tried everything to quit. She tried the gum, the patches. Man, she even tried hypnosis once. Now, it was good because it kind of mellowed her out a little bit, which we all liked. You know, she needed that. But it didn't work on the smoking, so she quit. And then inevitably, at 71 years old, after 55 years of smoking, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. Now, no one said to me at the time, hey, it was her choice. She made it. Don't treat her. Let her die. It's her choice. Moral failing. She knew for years, for 40 years, she knew that it could kill her, and she did it anyway. Nor was I ashamed to say to anyone that my mother had lung cancer. I didn't see it was a reflection on me or my brother or sister or my dad or our family. She was sick. People wanted to get her help. Would I have felt the same way if my mother was a heroin addict? As a heroin addict, we're trying to get her some help. We'll see what we can do. No way. None of us speak it out loud. In part because we think it reflects on us. We think somehow it's our failing. We think somehow we did something that forced them into that situation. And when that happens, we don't seek help for them. And when that happens, they feel morally inferior. And then they don't seek help. And the cycle continues. We are losing people in this country every day to this disease unnecessarily. And so here's what I've done in New Jersey. 3 years ago, I proposed a law that said if you're a non-dealing, non-violent offender, first-time offender, you don't go to jail anymore, you go to mandatory inpatient treatment. In the last 3 years, our crime rate is down 20%. Our prison population is down 10%. Our prison population is down enough now that 2 weeks ago in my State of the State address, I was able to announce the closing of a state prison. We're closing a state prison. Other states are building new prisons. We're closing one. And you know what we're going to do with that closed state prison? We are refurbishing it, and we're turning it into a certified drug rehabilitation facility for folks that are in the criminal justice system. So if you're in prison and you have a drug habit, we're going to send you to this facility. And you're going to spend the last year of your sentence getting treatment so that when you get out, maybe you got a chance to be a good father or mother, a good son or daughter, a good sister or brother. Maybe you got a chance to get a job. Maybe you got a chance to not drain society, but contribute to it, not only financially, but spiritually. And we're seeing great results from it. We have also equipped every police department in our state with Narcan, the antidote for when someone is having a heroin overdose. In the last 18 months, it's been administered 7,500 times in New Jersey. It has saved 7,500 lives. And you know what happened this year in New Jersey, this past year, in 2015? For the first time in 4 years, overdose deaths went down. Not up, down. It's working. It's going to take a long time to work. We're not taking any victory lap. We got a lot of work left to do in New Jersey, a lot of work. And a lot of people still dying and addicted. We have a lot to do. But here's the thing. Last thing I want to say on this is this. You know, we think somehow in our heads, because there's such a moral stigma attached to this, that this problem only happens to certain people. People from broken homes, people who are uneducated, people who are poor, people who live in urban areas. We think that these are the people who wind up addicted to drugs. I told you my mother was addicted to smoking, but I also want to tell you about a guy that I went to law school with. He was in my study group first year. For any of you who went to law school, and yes, I am a recovering lawyer, I'm trying my best. But for any of you who went to law school, you know that the people you formed your study group with in that first year of law school are the people that you are closest to, because they see at your worst. You go into law school first year, you're scared to death, you don't know if you're going to be able to do what needs to be done, and you cling to each other and you help each other. Well, this guy was the smartest guy in the group. He went to an Ivy League school, undergraduate. He was the first one, and the only one actually in that group, to make law review. He was the first one to get a job. He was the first one amongst us to make partner in his firm. He married a beautiful woman who's a doctor. They had 3 beautiful daughters. He had a great house, a great car, and a great career. And worse than all that, he was the best looking of all of us, and he was in great shape. And he ran 12 to 15 miles a week into his 40s. We hated him. But we loved him too. And when he started doing that running into his 40s, at one point he hurt his back. And he's a trial lawyer, so he needed to be on his feet, he needed to be working. He couldn't just sit at a desk. He had to be up and around and working. And so he went to a chiropractor and he went to an orthopedist. He was trying to get in. He couldn't get any relief for his back, so he went to a pain management specialist. And he got Percocet. About a year after that, I got a call from his wife, who's a doctor. And she said to me, I need to tell you that I kicked him out of the house because he's addicted to Percocet and he's starting to drink now too. And I can't trust him around the girls. And you guys need to help him. You need to get that group of friends together and you need to have an intervention because he won't listen to me. So that remaining group of us, the 5 of us, we all went to his mom's house together one night. At the time this happened, I was the sitting United States attorney in New Jersey, the chief federal law enforcement officer in the state. And we had an intervention with him, and we tried to convince him to go to treatment, and he told us, hey, we're crazy, his wife's crazy, we all got it wrong, he's fine, this is ridiculous, it's totally under control, like you hear from every addict. We convinced him finally, we got him to go to treatment, and that started a 10-year odyssey of him being in and out of treatment. During that 10 years, his wife divorced him, he lost the right to see his children, he lost his license to practice law, he lost his driver's license. He lost his home. And he spent through all of his money, including most of his retirement money. And nearly 2 years ago, on a Sunday morning, Mary Pat and I got the call that we were dreading, but what we knew in the bottom of our hearts were coming. They found him in a cheap motel room in New Jersey with an empty bottle of Percocet and an empty quart of vodka. And he was dead at 52 years old. By every way we measure success in this society, this guy had it. Incredibly well educated, great family, great friends, great career, plenty of money, beautiful children. And as the governor of New Jersey, I sat in a pew across the aisle from his ex-wife and his 3 daughters, watching them sob as he laid in a casket in front of me. My friend, who, as governor, I couldn't even save. And you know what I thought when I was sitting there? I have to tell you, it came over me. There but for the grace of God go I. What's different about me and him? What's different? Here I am now as governor running for president of the United States. I could have been him if I wound up in that situation. That alone should lift the stigma. It can happen to any of us. This disease doesn't discriminate. It attacks anyone who lets it in the front door. And we got to give these people the tools. We got to give them the tools to save their lives. And as president, that's exactly the way I'll talk about this issue. And I will make sure the Attorney General of the United States puts drug courts in every federal court in this country, and that we start getting treatment over incarceration. Because throwing people in jail hasn't worked. You're violent, you deal, you go to jail. You're a nonviolent person, we're going to get you help. We're not going to save every life. We won't. We didn't save my friend's life. We tried, we didn't. But I'm pro-life. You heard that last night in the debate. See, but when we talk about being pro-life, I think we narrow it much too much. See, of course we're pro-life for the 9 months they're in the womb. But I suggest to you that's the easy part. When they're in the womb, they're perfect. They haven't come out yet. They haven't done anything to disappoint us yet. Life gets much more complicated when they get out. But let me tell you, a 16-year-old girl addicted to heroin on the floor of the county lockup in this county, her life is precious. My 42-year-old friend who hurt his back and started popping pills, his life is an individual gift from God also. No less precious than the life in the womb. No less precious. And so if you're pro-life, you need to be pro-life for the whole life. Not just when it's easy, but when it's complicated. And those are the things I'll say as President of the United States, and that's the way I'll try to change drug policy in this country. I'll enforce every one of these laws vigorously. But I'll tell you what, I'm sick and tired of seeing people in my state and in my country dying unnecessarily. And we as a country need to help save each other. Because there's not a family in this room, I suspect, who hasn't been touched by this in some way, either by your own family, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your colleagues. We need to work on it together, and that's exactly what I'll do. So thanks for raising the issue. I appreciate it. All right, now my staff is telling me I can take one more question, which means I will take two. The reason for that is I want to show them I'm still the boss. And because you know what it's like running for president, right? Anybody tell you, any of the guys or women who've come through here, here's what it's like. You are surrounded every day by people younger than you who tell you where to go and what to do every minute of the day. The only place that I am free from the tyranny of the young is right here in the center of this room when I hold the microphone. So when they say one, I say two. So we're going to go to the Iowa Hawkeye fan there in the back first.
Yeah, go Hawks. Hey, Governor, thank you for being here. I think one of the biggest bureaucracies is the Department of Education. They do nothing to enhance education, and I think it's a disaster. What would you do? Can that be disbanded? And because we have a Department of Education in each state, why do we need a federal Department of Education?
Yeah, you know, and what they're now doing is micromanaging the way you teach your children. And it's wrong. Now, should there be some federal money dedicated to education in each of the states? Yeah, I think there should. I think it's a good investment for us to make, but not with all the strings attached that they put on. You know who should make the decisions about your child's education? Your local school board, in conjunction with our parents. And you know why I like it at the local school board? Here's why I like it. I like it because if you don't like something that's going on in your school, you can go and stop it. You don't like something that's going on at the Federal Department of Education, good luck. Good luck. So yeah, you know, I don't think for 1 minute that what they're doing there is making education better in this country. And when I said in my answer to that gentleman over there about, you know, spending, that will certainly be one of the things that is on the table when I examine what we're going to do to bring spending under control in the federal government. Do I think that there should be some communities that get federal help for their education? Sure. Try to make sure that the disparities are not too great based upon, you know, the relative, you know, wealth of a particular community. Yeah, but not with all these rules. These rules are ridiculous, They take away your freedom to be able to teach your child in the manner in which you think is appropriate. Mary Pat and I send our children all, just to tell you how decisions are made in my house, by the way. You know, Mr. Telling It Like It Is, where's that state? It's around here somewhere. Here's the way it works in my house. I went to public school, K to 12. Thought I got a great education, and I came out okay. Mary Pat is number 9 of 10 children. You'll be shocked to know that the family is Catholic. She's number 9 of 10 children, and she went to parochial school, K to 12. So we had our first child, Andrew, a son. We didn't talk even when she was pregnant or in his first couple of years about what we were going to do about school. But as he got closer to school, he said, okay, well, what are we going to do? And I said, well, you know, I went to public school. We have a really great public school system in our town. You know, I think we should send him to public school. And she said, well, I went to parochial school. I said, I think I got a really good education. And so all 4 of our children go to parochial school. That's the way decisions get made on important issues in the Christie household. Another little window into the potential Christie presidency for you. Keep an eye on her as well. But the reason we do it is because we want the values we teach our children at home to be reinforced at school. I think that's why a lot of people in Iowa homeschool too. They want their children not only to get a good education, but they don't want their values undercut. And a lot of what happens in the Department of Education is an undercutting of our values. And it's not right, it's not good, and it's not something that I'll support as President of the United States. Yes, we tried Common Core in New Jersey, and it was a failure. You want to know why it was a failure? Parents didn't like it, students didn't like it, and teachers didn't like it. When you go 0 for 3 on those 3 groups in education, it's time to change. We have killed Common Core in our state, and we're moving on to New Jersey-based standards. All right, last question. This young man right here, and here he's coming up behind you with a microphone.
Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm a pre-med student here at St. Ambrose.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. It's a lot of work. But anyways, so in the future, thinking about being a physician, obviously there's a lot of problems in our healthcare system that we all know, but I'm going to focus on 2 here. 1, kids are becoming more and more overweight. How are we going to combat that? And 2, as our population is aging, how are we going to deal with nursing homes and issues like that where we're essentially, after people have lived a long life, we're deciding, let's choose just extending your life, let's throw you in a nursing home and just call you good. When you aren't having quality of life, it's not right for them.
You know, I don't know how you reacted to that, but he sounds like he'd be a good doctor already, right? Concise, to the point, intelligent, put the 2 things out there. Before you know it, he'd be writing your prescription, sending you on your way, and moving to the next examining room, right? Guy looks efficient. He's ready to go, baby. He is ready to go. Good question. So I'll answer both of them. First, I'll do the second one first. In New Jersey, what we've done is moved much more towards preferring to have people have home care than putting them in nursing homes. I think we're institutionalizing too many of our elderly. And a lot of them can be cared for. Now, some of them have severe conditions, as you know, which will necessitate them being in a higher risk type of facility like a nursing home. But a lot of them don't need that. But a lot of them go there because the way we pay from an insurance and a healthcare perspective is different for nursing homes and at a better rate than it is if they stay at home. We've turned that around in New Jersey, and we are now favoring staying at home over nursing homes and making reimbursements more competitive for caring for someone in their home. They could be more comfortable in familiar surroundings, easier for the family to visit and care for them. This is, in my view, a more humane way to go. And I don't see any reason why we can't do the whole thing, do that for the entire country. On the obesity issue, listen, I'm all in on this one because I've lived it, right? I mean, I'd be serious. You know, I mean, when I first came around to Iowa in 2010 and 2011, I was significantly larger than I am today. Significantly. I've dealt with battles with my weight, you know, for most of my adult life. And it is a very complicated issue. I think that, you know, it's about educating families about the way you feed children from an early age so that bad habits don't start. But we also need to understand, you know, that some people just have a problem with this and that we need to try to get them, you know, help that they need to learn to eat better, to exercise more. We need to be educating our children about this from early on. Our physicians have to play an even bigger role in this than they're playing already in helping to educate parents about how to do this. And I know Mary Pat and I as parents are working on this all the time with our kids. And it's not easy. It's not easy because, society comes at them with all kinds of advertisements for only the worst things. Like, you very rarely see a broccoli ad on television, right? When was the last time you saw a really good broccoli ad where they show the water glistening off the broccoli, right? And you see it coming out of a steamer and it looks tremendous, right? You never see that. But man, I see another Papa John's commercial during a football game where Papa John is going to give you the second pizza for free, or 5 cents for the second pizza if you order one large at regular price or whatever it is. They're inundated with that approach. So we have to push back as families to say, yeah, there's no problem with having a couple of slices of pizza one night, but not a whole Papa John's with a second one free. And by the way, they throw in like the extra large chocolate chip cookie, right? Like, I mean, we'll throw that in for $2. It's like, it's hard to have a fighting chance in those circumstances. Families have to engage in this. This is not government's job. It's a family job. It's a family job. And, I've lost a lot of weight in the last 3 years. And you know what's happened in my house? My kids have lost weight too. They've lost weight too. You know why? Because their father's setting a better example. And they're watching me lose weight, and they want to lose weight. They're watching me not eat, a quart of Ben & Jerry's in front of a football game. It's a good thing, right? So much of this is the atmosphere that's set in the home, what you deem to be acceptable. And physicians and other healthcare providers can play a big role in this by helping to teach parents. Listen, my mother was a wonderful woman, but not a great cook. And she used to fry everything. Everything. And that's just not the healthiest thing to do all the time, right? But that's what her mother did. And I assume that's what my great-grandmother did too. Right? So there are family patterns too that others need to help educate them on how to break and why it's so important to do that. And I think our healthcare system and our healthcare providers can play a big role in that. So if you're passionate about that, I'm glad you are. Because if you become a general practitioner or you become a pediatrician or whatever role you decide to play, you can have conversations with people about that and speak from an authoritative perspective and give them good advice. And if you do that, you can maybe help to break a cycle in a family that'll be really bad. And that's what we need to do. But this is not a problem for government. I don't want to be Michelle Obama telling people what they have to eat at lunch in school, okay? I think parents should decide that. Not the First Lady of the United States. So, I want to say two things to you before we go. First is thank you. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Whenever people get cynical or pessimistic about government, I tell them to come to Iowa or New Hampshire. Because you folks have been, for the last year, listening to all of us, taking in information, getting ready to make decisions. And that's really important. It's really important. And you're going to play a huge role on Monday night. You're going to help to narrow this field. You're going to help to make big decisions for the other 48 states. Right? You in New Hampshire, in the next 10 days, are going to make huge decisions for the rest of the nation. And so I thank you for coming and listening to me tonight and giving me the chance. I want to end by doing one thing that a guy in New Hampshire taught me. And I think it applies just as much to Iowa, it's just that the New Hampshire guy said it to me first. He came up to me after one of my town hall meetings and he said to me, Governor, I like what you said. I love your passion. I think you make sense. And I think you'd make a great president. But I'm not voting for you. I said, but you're not voting for me. Why are you not voting for me? He goes, well, you forgot to do something. And since you forgot to do it, I can't vote for you. And he said, so as a result, I just wish you the best of luck. Nice to meet you. He starts to walk away. He's in his mid-80s. I said, sir, come back here for a second. What do you mean? I forgot to do something. This was back in August now, okay? I said, forgot to do something. What did I forget to do? You can't just walk away and tell me I forgot to do something and not tell me what it was. And he goes, you never asked for my vote. He said, I sat here the whole time. I listened to your whole town hall meeting, all your ideas. You answered all the questions. I love it. You never asked me for my vote. You don't ask me for my vote, you don't get it. And I said, well, okay, can I have your vote? He said, too late. I said, too late? It's August, man. You're not voting until February. You mean it's too late? He goes, all right, I'll make a deal with you. He said, I'm going to come to another one of your town hall meetings in New Hampshire somewhere. I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming. I'm not going to sit in a place where you can see me. And I'm going to see if you remember to do what I told you to do, to ask for the vote. And if you do ask for the vote that time, I'll think about it. And if you don't, then you're finished. And I said, okay, sir, thank you very much. And I shook his hand, and he walked away, and he took about 4 or 5 steps away. And they turned back around, looked over his shoulder, he said, and by the way, son, that's the way we do things in New Hampshire. Now, I believe that I would have gotten the same lecture from someone in Iowa if you had gotten to me first. So I'm not going to leave here tonight without asking for the vote. A young man asked me in a town hall meeting Wednesday night, Governor, all the polls say you're not ahead right now, so would I be wasting my vote voting for you? And what I said to him was, a vote is a solemn responsibility and a great privilege as an American compared to the rest of the world. And if you vote for who in your heart you believe will be the best nominee to defeat Hillary Clinton and the best person to serve as President of the United States, then your vote can never be wasted, ever. Vote in your heart, in your mind, the person you think is best. And you know what? You never know what's going to happen. Man, I've watched the polls here in Iowa for a long time, lots of years. You people always turn things upside down. People think you're going left, you go right. People think you're going right, you go left. You're tricky folks. And who knows what you're going to do on Monday night. But we'll learn on Monday night. But I'm asking you for your vote. But more than that, I'm also asking you for your trust and your confidence. Because your vote will get me to the White House. And that'll be a good thing for me. It's what I want to do. It's the next step in my life I'd like to take if I'm lucky enough to be able to have your trust and your confidence too. See, because without your trust and your confidence, I can't be a good president. Because I'm going to have to make hard decisions that you may not like. I'm going to have to make hard choices that none of us can anticipate. And if I don't have your trust and your confidence, I can't possibly be a successful president. And our country needs a successful presidency. We need it badly. We need it badly. After the last 7 years, we need it. And so I hope I can get your vote on Monday night. I hope that I'll also earn your trust and your confidence. And I will guarantee you one thing. You give me the chance to be your president, I will work hard every day to make you proud, not only of our country, but of your president too. Thank you very much.